Have you ever witnessed a simple act of kindness that completely changed someone's day, or even their life? Imagine being on a crowded airplane, tired and anxious, when a small, unexpected gesture melts the walls of your worry and restores your faith in humanity. This isn't just any story, it's a real moment that reminds us how even the smallest heart can create the biggest ripples of kindness. It all began with a young girl, barely 6 years old, clutching a small cookie in her tiny hands, her eyes wide with curiosity and innocence. What happened next would touch not only the heart of a struggling mother, but also everyone who hears this story. Before we dive in, if you enjoy stories that warm your heart and restore your faith in people, please make sure to subscribe to Kindness Tales, like this video, and leave a comment sharing your favorite story of kindness. We love hearing from you, and your engagement helps spread the message of hope and compassion even further. The airplane cabin was buzzing with the usual chatter, overhead bins clicking shut, and the low hum of engines carrying passengers to destinations near and far. Among the travelers was a young single mother named Sarah, who had been juggling 2 jobs just to make ends meet. She was traveling to visit her sister, hoping for a short break from the exhausting reality of life. But even in this rare moment of reprieve, the weight of bills, work, and sleepless nights pressed heavily on her shoulders. Sarah's young son, Jacob, sat beside her, fidgeting and restless. She tried to soothe him with a small snack she had packed, but the stress of their life seemed to cling to her every movement. She felt the eyes of other passengers glance over occasionally, some with curiosity, others with impatience. It was one of those days where everything feels heavy, and every little worry feels amplified. Then, from across the aisle, came a small, tentative voice. "Excuse me," said a little girl with golden curls and bright blue eyes, holding out a cookie on a small paper napkin. "If I share my cookie, will you stay?" Sarah looked up, startled, unsure if she had heard correctly. The girl's gaze was sincere, almost pleading, and behind her sat a woman who smiled politely but seemed preoccupied. Something about the little girl's earnest expression made Sarah's heart skip a beat. Here she was, weighed down by life, and a tiny stranger was offering her a simple gift, her cookie, and in doing so, her company. Sarah hesitated for a moment. She had learned to be cautious, to protect herself and her son from disappointment, but the innocence in that child's eyes was disarming. She smiled, a little shyly, and said, "I'd love to stay." "Thank you." The girl's face lit up like a sunrise. "Yay! I'm Emily," she said, sitting down beside Sarah and Jacob. "Do you like chocolate chip?" She broke the cookie in half and handed one piece to Sarah, the other to Jacob. The small gesture, so simple yet so profound, instantly eased the tension in Sarah's chest. It was as if a small spark had been lit in a very dark room, showing that kindness still existed, even in unexpected places. For the next several minutes, the 3 of them shared smiles and laughter over broken pieces of cookie, talking about everything and nothing. Emily asked Sarah about her son, about school, about favorite games. Sarah found herself laughing, telling stories she hadn't shared with anyone in months. The weight she had been carrying, even just for a moment, seemed to lift. Emily's mother, sitting beside her, watched quietly. She was the CEO of a large tech company, a woman known in the news for her business acumen, her high-profile lifestyle, and her relentless drive. But for Emily, the world was not about money, fame, or power, it was about noticing people, sharing what little you have, and caring for others in ways that can't be measured in dollars. As the flight continued, Sarah shared a little about her life, her struggles as a single mother, and the constant worry about how to provide for Jacob. She didn't realize she was pouring her heart out until she felt Emily's small hand squeeze hers. "It's okay," Emily whispered. "You're doing great." The words, so simple, carried a weight that no adult encouragement could match. It was the honesty, the purity, the unfiltered kindness of a child that made Sarah feel seen and valued, if only for a few precious moments. And in return, Sarah shared stories from her life, teaching Emily about resilience, about hope, and about finding joy even in the hardest days. When the flight attendant came around with drinks, Emily offered Sarah a sip from her juice box before taking her own. Every small gesture Emily made was a reminder of the quiet, unnoticed ways we can lift each other up. Sarah realized that kindness doesn't have to be grandiose or expensive, sometimes, it's just a cookie shared with an open heart. As the plane began its descent, Emily leaned over and whispered something that made Sarah's eyes well up. "Mommy says everyone has a little magic inside them. Sharing it makes it grow. Sarah felt a lump in her throat as she hugged Emily tightly, understanding fully that the little girl's simple cookie had carried a deeper message. Kindness can change the course of someone's day or life if only we let it. By the time they landed, Sarah felt lighter, as if she had carried less than half the burdens she had boarded with. She looked across the aisle at Emily's mother, and for the first time, she noticed the woman's calm, gentle eyes, the quiet dignity beneath her powerful presence. She wanted to thank her for raising a daughter with such a big heart, but words seemed inadequate. Instead, she simply smiled, nodding in silent gratitude. As Sarah and Jacob exited the plane, she glanced back one last time. Emily waved at her, cookie crumbs still clinging to her fingers, her bright smile full of innocence and generosity. Sarah realized that the small interaction had been a reminder of something fundamental. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, creates ripples that extend far beyond the initial gesture. Later that evening, Sarah recounted the story to her sister, tears of gratitude and joy filling her eyes. She realized that her heart had been touched not just by Emily's gesture, but by the way kindness can connect strangers across divides of wealth, age, and circumstance. She felt inspired to pay it forward in her own way, promising herself that she would look for opportunities to make someone else feel seen, heard, and valued. Emily's mother, too, reflected on the encounter. She realized that her daughter had reminded her of something she had forgotten in the rush of her high-powered life, that the true measure of wealth isn't money or status, but the capacity to give, to care, and to connect with others in a meaningful way. Watching her child act with such pure-hearted generosity reminded her that kindness is timeless, universal, and contagious. This story stayed with Sarah long after the airplane lights dimmed and the hum of engines faded. It reminded her that life can be hard, unpredictable, and often lonely, but even in the most unlikely places, compassion exists. It exists in children who share cookies with strangers, in mothers who listen without judgment, and in all of us when we open our hearts to others. And the most beautiful part? You don't have to be a CEO or have a child with curls and bright blue eyes to make a difference. Every act of kindness counts. Every smile offered to a stranger, every hand extended to someone in need, every moment spent listening, can become a ripple that spreads far beyond your imagination. So the next time you feel tired, overlooked, or overwhelmed, remember Emily's cookie, and remember that a single act of kindness can transform someone's day, and maybe even their life. And as Sarah discovered, sometimes all it takes is one moment, one gesture, to remind yourself and others that the world is full of love and hope, waiting to be shared. Let's carry this lesson with us. Be like Emily. Be generous with your heart. Notice the people around you. Share what you have, even if it's just a smile, a cookie, or a few kind words. You never know whose life you might touch, whose burdens you might lighten, or whose hope you might restore. And when you do, the world becomes a little brighter, one act of kindness at a time.